Good morning, my family. So, just before Christmas, I have been having a lot of things laid on my mind about this homestead. I had mentioned before that my husband, he works outside the homestead. I work the homestead here by myself. And it gets to a point every year we turn around and we figure out ways to expand, become bigger. But at some point I have to say, when is enough is enough. And this year, this new year, and into this new year, there has been a lot of sitting down moments, coming to realization, and with the good Lord's leading, I am actually coming to that point. I had to reevaluate, and this is our downtime, so I'm reevaluating how this place is being run. There are areas, such as in my gardening, I have wanted more of certain type of things, but never got to them. I would find, in all truth of the matter is, I would be so busy and I wouldn't be able to successfully do the things that I'm supposed to do. I first want to say is, Living Tradition Homestead, if you are watching this video, God bless you for helping me realize and to expand on this new path that I'm on, to enjoy what I'm doing. I'm finding that there are areas on this homestead where I'm extremely stressing over, and I cannot enjoy this homestead if I'm continually in worry and stress. Here in a bit, I'm going to show you one of my areas that I have stressed to the max on. Some of the areas that I'm going to point out where I have failed because I've just been too busy. Excuse me. So in some of these areas, I will let you know what had happened, which is what I call the aftermath of it all. Being too busy, the inside of my homestead became what I considered a wrecking ball. There was just no time to clean up, or there was no time to do this. I was constantly busy doing something. And this is not the way life should be. And I knew this. I knew it was getting out of control. I knew it was getting overwhelming. So I had to take some downtime while we have winter, to reevaluate everything and get to just decisions on what do I want from this place. You know, I thought about, is it worth homesteading, to the point where I had to really sit down and think, do I want to continue to keep doing this? And my answer is absolutely. When I think about my past life where I was living in the city life, it's not in my heart to do that no more. I can't do that. It's not something I want. It's not something I enjoy. I love being able to grow my own food. I love to be able to preserve. I love these pantry challenges, to create meals from what we have done for ourselves here on this homestead. So the answer to that was, it's simple. I cannot go back. What I need to do is reevaluate how I'm doing this. Now, we do plan on, we've been talking and discussing about adding a little bit more to our poultry, as such as adding maybe a few more quails, because I miss my quail eggs. One, they are super beneficial, and two, they do make an all-around single-person meal. We have been looking at maybe growing a couple pheasant as well. Now, we're not the scale of the homestead to be able to raise pig and cattle and sheep. I absolutely wish we could, but poultry we can do. Like I said, we live on a city-county borderline, so we can't do what most homesteads can do. But what we can do is still homestead and be able to sustain ourselves. We just have to figure out areas how. Now, with these new expansions we're thinking of, this is not saying we're going overboard. There was a point, I used to have quails, and I don't anymore, because it got to a point where they were so super easy to raise my husband, he just got into, this is amazing, this is great. And when we started out with just a few, we ended up in the long run sharing meat because we had 60 quails. For two people, that was totally out of the question. There was no way we can keep up with that. Two, feed is getting to the point it's getting really expensive. Everything in life is. So if now these are still into considerations. This is not saying we're actually going to do this just yet, but it's something we're talking about. The gardening. Now here is some of the, and that's what I'm going to show you outside, where one of my biggest stresses came from in gardening, and it's something that I love. I love the produce. I love to bring it in. I love to can and preserve what I'm producing. I love to have that freshness on my table at all times, but I wasn't doing it the way it should. Now, here we live in the deep south, and with that, we do get a winter, but not as harsh as people from the north do. We actually, our general idea of a frost is our lowest temps are between 29 to 28 on a normal stance. Now, over the past week, we had such a blast we ain't never seen before when we went down to single digits of 6 and 7 degrees. These are not normal for us. Another normal we have is a lot of rain. And in some ways that could be devastating, but other ways it could be a blessing. And it was a blessing I was not utilizing in. I do have good drainage, but I wasn't using it. And so I'm rescaling back on that and my decisions on what I'm going to do. In the wintertime, we built up these greenhouses and we covered them. Now I absolutely love my greenhouses. I love how it was set up with the raised beds. That's not going to change. What I'm rethinking is the covering. Now, a lot of these vegetables for the fall and winter, and especially with our type of winters, we can utilize that cool weather because these plants were made for that. And I've been completely covering them over. In the point of me having so much, and I've actually started not enjoying what I'm doing anymore, and that's sad. I do not want to get into that. I do not want to get into the scale where everything is just so overwhelming that I'm going to come to a point going on after 5 years that I don't want to do this no more, and I'm going to make the biggest regret mistake I've ever done in my life. So instead, I'm just going to take this time to rethink. Now, again, back to the greenhouses, one of the stresses that I have had, and although these are fantastic, is every time we have a bad storm, a downpour, I'm constantly going outside, stressing in the middle of the night through the rain because I'm having to remove pockets of water that build over the coverings. And when that happens, it can weigh down my frames and take my frame out. We had bought one about a year or two ago, and we were going to use it for storing our wood in for our wood heat. And within weeks of purchasing it, setting it up, a good storm came and totally collapsed the whole thing on us. So it turned out to be a waste of money. So, and with the storms that we've been having, I put up braces to hold these frames up, but it's still to the point I'm worried. I'm getting up in the middle of the night, removing these pockets of water, and this is not the way life should be. So the other part of it is our homestead being in the city-county border, I have city water. Now, city water costs. Natural rain does not. And there's good and bad to both. Natural rain we can get, and it can become overwhelming and too much and drown out our crops. But at the same aspect, it is free water. It is natural water. There's no chemicals to it, and can become very beneficial to our plants. City water costs us, and it has chemicals. But during a drought, it can water our vegetables. So I have to rethink on how I'm going to do this. So I decided, and I guess God's taking me on a journey and a comparison. I have one greenhouse which has nothing in it. As I showed you in earlier videos what had happened during the deep freeze, we literally lost everything to the point we had to start over. This path that I'm on for this year, which started just before Christmas, of a ministering that I'm going through, was restart, renew, clean up, clean out. 2023 for Parton's Heritage Homestead is completely starting over and rethinking things. And I'm understanding, you know, it started out in bits and pieces, but I'm understanding the big picture. So I want to be able to enjoy this life. I want to be able to keep it as simple as life has been for us, without all the stress and the worry. I want to continue to keep doing what I do because I love it. I love that security. I love that sense of that freshness. So I just can't give it up. I just have to figure out how to do this. So I'm going to take you out to the greenhouse and I'm going to show you my examples of, how do I call it, my eye-opening, my awakening, and what the ministering to me is showing me, and why I'm so miserable, why I have no time, and why my homestead literally became a wrecking ball. So let's go outside and I will show you part of that example and the changes that I'm going to do this year, at least for the garden. So next step will be outdoors. Okay, so these are my examples. One is uncovered and one is covered. Now I'm going to take you to the one that is covered and show you where my stress was coming from every time we had a storm or a rain. Can you imagine getting up in the middle of the night every single time? And I left this one alone for a reason. It would form these heavy weight, and this is mild compared to what I've actually seen. It doesn't matter how much I tighten this down, it would still create, with all the heavy rain, pockets. When this gets done like this, these frames, now these are metal frames, but they can get weak. And so I would be out here in the middle of the night just doing this, and just, let's see if I can do this for you without, but I'm pushing all this water off. And it was just getting too dang stressful for me to do this. And personally, when you got a serious downpour, this is not something I want to do. The other part of this is, again, now during that rain, you see how dry it is in here. So I'm actually spending a lot, and literally when I say that, I'm spending a lot of money to water my gardens when I could have been using that rain freely. So again, I'm rethinking. These are great. There is really nothing wrong with them. But for me, I had to think of what was best for us. And in our area and in this deep south, though it is winter time for us, we still get temps that are in the 60s and sometimes the 70s. So in this greenhouse, it becomes almost 80 degrees. Now, when you're raising vegetables that are cool weather, like I did with my lettuce, just before that deep freeze, I started noticing that my lettuce was bolting. It had a bitter taste, so it wasn't working. So I started taking the covering off, and that's what I'm doing with this one. Now that one over there is empty. Now we had a good rain come in yesterday, so guess what? This was just as dry as that other greenhouse, and now my vegetables are watered. And I want to show you, we're getting growth. I've got sprouts coming up where we had spent the day together planting seeds. Look, y'all, they're starting to come up. So I'll bring you down here. These are starting to come up and they look beautiful. They're getting natural sunshine. They're not getting excessive amount of heat where they were going before. Our mustard greens were literally, they were stunted on their growth. I had a lot of my lettuces, they were bolting too quickly, so I had to sit here and rethink everything. So off came the cover yesterday, and I'm actually going to take the cover off this other one because, again, I don't want to keep stressing having to come out here and pushing that water out, and there's nothing in it anyways. It needs to have that natural air to be able to replenish, so when I do put my garden in next year, or my garden in this spring, sorry, it'll be ready. So this one will be coming off today as well. So rethinking everything. I love this. I still love the aspect of having the raised beds. I do have to do some repairs on that one board, but I'm just cutting back time at this point and rethinking and planning what do I want to do. Now, the 10-footer over here, I'll take you over here. We got a lot of water yesterday. We had a good storm come in, so this one right here, I did cover, and see, I could have done that before with those others. It made me stop and think, if I would have just used leaves for a bed covering, would that have helped save my cabbage and my cauliflower instead of actually covering that up? We go back inside. I'm going to give you the analysis that was going through my head. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure. Still waiting to see. Yep, we are getting babies coming up in here too, which was our salad bed. This is exciting, and even though I covered them with leaves, they're still coming up. So it's gotten me rethinking by looking at all this and starting over. What are my new plans for this year? So I'll take you back inside, and we will go over some of the things that I'm doing and rethinking. Okay, so some of the things that I was thinking during that deep freeze. One thing I noticed, that when that sun starts coming into the homestead, or into the greenhouses, excuse me, that yes, it would get really warm, and I would see droplets and condensation building up on the inside of it. They are great as far as naturally letting the sun beat in on that covering. They do not, those vegetables actually don't get the sunshine rays and the energy that they actually need in the green. I had noticed that some of the vegetable leaves were turning yellow. They were not that pretty green. It makes sense. The sun has energy for them. So I was blocking that energy off. The other thing I would notice, that the condensation inside of it, when it got super cold like that, everything turned to ice. Now, I understand these were not heated greenhouses, so that factor in itself means that, nothing is going to survive that type of, blast, especially down here. But were there things I could have done differently? If I didn't have that covering on, what if I just put down straw? Or what if I did put down leaves just to insulate the ground? Would that have saved my cauliflower and my cabbage? Probably. What I ended up doing with these greenhouses, though, is everything froze the way it did. There was no way for the sunshine, when it did come out, to be enough to take away what was in it. They couldn't actually feel the sun itself. Those coverings are actually pretty thick. So with that, I was finding, if as much as it was also gets insulated by the heat from the sun, the cold would also insulate it just as well. So God was leading in the comparison in our area, at least, which is better, open exposure all times, or covering in the winter and opening in the spring and summer. So I'm deciding that I did go through, and when we went in that one that was covered, it is warmer in there. But again, it's not getting that natural sunlight. And now that area in the summer gets shaded off some naturally as well. So the one thing I will do, I did purchase some shade covers, because our summers get so hot that it literally fried our vegetables, and the fact that we had a drought. So to protect some of my vegetables in the summer, shade cloth is what I will be using. but it's still enough for them to get still some ample sunlight to the vegetables, and so I can utilize still some of the rain. Now during a drought, I understand I'm going to have to guard or water my gardens. Now to ease back on some of the stress that I've been doing at the moment that I have these greenhouses like they are, I'm constantly having to water. Now between going and doing my farm work with all my poultry, and then doing the garden, and then coming in here and keeping busy every day, I lose track of something, and sadly my gardens suffer for it. I try to cut back on the amount of water that I use, and it's not working. It's just absolutely not working. And I want a good garden, so I'm going to utilize the natural as much as I possibly can. Use the paid for water when necessary, and cut back. And seriously, I was getting ready to have to water these seedlings again. And when I took that cover off and made the executive decision, let me take this chance. I knew it was a storm, but I'm going to take the chance of using this water, and I don't have to water this. As a matter of fact, I won't have to water for a couple days now, which is not going to rain anyway. So my garden is watered. I am good to go. And that's something I don't have to do now. I have stress released off of me, and it leaves me space to do something else. So I am rethinking this homestead, and in the experience that I am going through right now, I will tell you, just like a few other homesteaders are realizing, we love what we do, but keep it simple. Don't get to the point where you're so overwhelmed. Yes, this is easy. I'm going to tell you, it is so easy to say we would like this, we would like that. We start getting into things, we get excited about it, but there's a price to pay in the very end. And usually that's your sanity. Usually that's your peace. So scaling back myself, rethinking my methods, I will say that keep it simple. Don't make it to where you can't actually enjoy life. Add what you can, but not past your abilities. Don't allow yourself to have things suffer because something has to be taken care of, and you become overwhelmed. You lose your sleep, you lose your peace, and then on that path, you're going to lose something that you love dearly because you're going to just give up on it. And 95% of the time, you're going to regret it. I do not want to regret making that decision, so I am not doing that. I am just going to scale back, rethink this year. This is the year, it seems, and I've seen this in many other areas. This is the year where it seems that God is leading all of us into restore, renew, clean up, clean out, and restoration. Thank you, Lord. Restoration. So I'm hoping this video helps you even through my mess ups. I'm hoping it'll help you to think, if you're just getting started into this, keep it simple, keep it small, grow upon your own abilities, not beyond that. Think carefully on decisions. Absolutely experiment. Now, a lot of this was experimentation to me. Do I regret having the greenhouses? No, not really. But I do have to rethink things. So think carefully, make your plans, baby steps at a time, grow where you feel that you can handle it. Know how your family operates. If you're like me, where one runs a homestead, one works out of it. Think about what you're going to be able to handle all by yourself. Do not get overwhelmed with it, because you will lose your enjoyment. You will lose the simplicity of this life, and more than likely you will give up. Giving up is not an option. If this is the type of lifestyle you really want, I'm going to tell you, once you start seeing the beautiful effects of what it gives you, the benefits it is for your family, you will get to a point you'll understand what 95% of us homesteaders, big and small, know, that there is no going back, because the self-sustaining life is the best thing we ever did for ourselves. what we need to do is just rethink about our lifestyle and how we created it. Nothing else did this but us. So start small, make plans, grow to your ability, and enjoy this life. It's amazing. So I'm hoping this helped you. Much love to you, and I do have some further videos that I'm going to come out with that going to keep in the track of homesteading, keep it simplicity, keep it beneficial to your family, and I'm going to teach as much as I can possibly teach. Today's conversation, coffee conversation, basically is realization. So I have got some errands I have to do today, so I am going to end right here. So I will tell you much love. If you like these videos, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, keep these going, and I appreciate all who have subscribed to us, who do watch us. Thank you so much. I'm hoping you're learning a lot from this channel. So until next time, Parton's Heritage Homestead, we love you dearly.